Buy now, sell now. Let's focus in on earnings, and Mahindra Logistics is a stock to watch out for in trade. The revenues have grown 24%. Operationally, it's been a steady quarter to say the least. Mr. Sarkari is the CEO of Mahindra Logistics. He now joins in on the show to talk more about the road ahead. Congratulations, Mr. Sarkari. Very strong growth, robust momentum as well. How would you really sum up the quarter? What are some of the milestones, Mr. Sarkari? Very strong growth, robust momentum as well. How would you really sum up the quarter? What are some of the milestones in the year gone by?
So, while of course numbers are important and we have achieved certain milestones this year, that is $500 million in revenue, and our PBT has crossed 100 crores. But there are other factors that have been very, very encouraging, specifically to the industry as a whole. In my last 25 years of industry experience, I have not seen the government taking so much interest in the logistics sector. If you just look at the last 7 to 8 months, the kind of reforms that have been brought to boost the logistics sector are unprecedented, beginning from GST, moving onwards to giving infrastructure status to the logistics industry, and then Sagarmala and the regional airports, and followed up by the e-way bill. One of the most important changes that have been brought about is to bring an additional secretary under the Commerce Ministry, who will now be the one-point coordinator for logistics, and this will really help us.
Okay. We are seeing steady margin expansion as well, led by operational efficiency, and this is of course aided by the reduction in strategic consulting fees. What progress are you penciling for this over the next 4 to say 6 quarters?
So our focus in MLL is to grow our non-Mahindra business, and more so with GST coming in, the focus is going to be on consolidating and putting up large regional warehouses and distributing from these warehouses to more than one single state, which was happening earlier. Now these are the two services, that is managing large warehouses and distribution, that will bring about enhancement to the margins in our company. Basically, vanilla line haul transportation is very low margin. So we call this value-added services, and this is what will benefit the manufacturer as well as the end consumer, because when you build out large warehouses and distribute to larger areas, you bring down the cost of logistics.
What are the new client wins, and how do you expect these relationships to mature through FY19?
While we will be penetrating and continuously enhancing our services with our larger customers, we look at bringing in a few more on board every year, so that we can then expand our base also. We have a long tail with whom we do small business, and that's the funnel opportunity that we already have with us. Coming back to your question, the important part again is a lot of consumer-facing companies are looking at redesigning their networks in India post-GST, and we are already seeing orders coming in towards that. Consolidated warehouses, so from around 26, 27 godowns that they used to operate in the country, they are coming down to something like 12, 13, which will be larger warehouses. And that's where Mahindra Logistics, which is an organized player and has the processes and technology, will be able to leverage.
Okay, Mrs. Sarkari, FY18 has been a transformational year for logistics sector, thanks to government initiatives as well. As the reforms play out, how do you see third-party logistics growing in a better way compared to the overall industry? And also, how will the e-way bill ease life for you?
We definitely look at an overall growth rate that is above the industry, specifically as we grow our non-Mahindra business. Coming to the e-way bill, I think this is one of the most welcome moves again from the logistics industry. Just to let you know that before e-way bill came in, every state had its own permit, and the methodology of getting the permit was different from state to state. and it was the end receiver of goods that had to create the permit. This created a lot of inefficiencies in the system. Now what has happened is there is one government portal. It's the origin that creates the e-way bill, and therefore the inefficiencies that were existing because of that earlier go away. And honestly, we are very, very happy with the way this implementation, although it was delayed, but rightfully so, that it did not really create any big issues once it was put in place. We have seen for ourselves over 90,000 e-way bills being created in 1 month, and that is a huge number, and we have not seen any big disruption in this process.
So what kind of market share are you targeting over the next 3 to 4 years for 3PL compared to what it is currently at?
So like I said, we are looking at growing above the industry stated growth rate of 20%. Specifically, our non-M&M business will grow at a much higher rate, and therefore from a market share perspective, we are still very, very small, although we are one of the largest 3PL players in the country, because the market itself is so very large over here. So even to get a 1% market share, you can imagine in a 6 trillion rupee market, it really takes a lot of numbers. So I would not comment on market share at this stage. It is more about how rapidly you can grow the organization.
Okay, finally, Mr. Sarkari, what's the capex marked for FY 19-20? Any growth targets you're aiming at? And because you closed FY 18 with very strong 28% growth, so what can we expect next year?
So from a capex perspective, as you know, we are an asset-light organization. Our capex is basically twofold. One is in technology, and we continue to invest in technology to enable both our supply chain and our people transport business. The other capex that we invest in is, since we are now going to lease out these large format warehouses, they will require a lot of material handling equipment to bring in efficiencies, and that's the second capex that we will be really investing in. Once again, I want to reiterate the fact that the 3PL industry is stated to grow at 20%, and we as Mahindra Logistics are looking at growing much faster than that.
All right, we'll let you go on that note. Appreciate you taking the time out, joining in and giving us more details about the road ahead for Mahindra Logistics. And the stock price is currently in focus. It's been a great quarter for the company, and the management as well is fairly confident. Down by 1% at 484. Well, let's get on board the